Hey, what's up guys? Paul here from metalmakershop.com. Got a small little project for you to do today. I'm going to show you how to make a simple metal rose. This is really great if you're just kind of starting out in metal fabrication and kind of want to dabble in something a little more. This one is not super detailed, but it'll still look pretty cool when you're done. There are some guys that make some really incredible metal roses with a ton of detail, and you can definitely do that with yours, but this is a good way to get started. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Should probably be able to knock it out in about 30 minutes if you got a little bit of skill, and mostly done with a lot of pretty simple tools. Alrighty, so let me show you what you need. Alright, the stuff you need to get started is, first you're going to need some material. I like 24 gauge or thinner, that way you can kind of bend it pretty easy. I think this is actually just a tad bit thicker, but it'll still work for what we're doing. This is a 1/4 inch rod. You can use any size rod you want. I tend to like the 1/4 inch. They're pretty stiff, holds up, so if you want to put this into something, it's pretty solid. And then lastly, you're going to need a template. These are your rose petal templates. You can find these online all over the place. You can also go down in the description of the video, and I should have a file there you can download for free if you want to. So, and then hand tool wise, you're going to need some tin snips, and then probably a couple pair of pliers. That should handle most of it. And then, of course, you're going to need a welder of some sort to finish this up. So, now the way you want to cut these out, there's a few different ways. You can lay this on, and glue this down, and then cut out each piece. You can also cut out each individual piece, and then trace it on your material with a marker or something. You just want to show that you got these shapes. And then to cut it out, you can use a pair of tin snips or a hand plasma. But I'm going to cheat today. I've got the laser, so I'm going to throw it up on the laser, and then I'll be able to knock these out pretty quick. So, all right, so I'm going to throw these up on the laser, get the petal pieces out, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, here's all our pieces now. As you can see, each of the individual little petals. Again, I cut these out on the laser just because it was easy, but use whatever means possible you can. Like I said, just tin snips or plasma hand cutter, whatever tools you got to make it work. So I am going to throw these up here on the magnetic vise. I like to clean them up a little bit, kind of make them shiny, because it will kind of help with the final result once we hit it with some heat and give it a little bit of texture and stuff. So all right, I'm going to clean these up, and then I'll show you the next step after that. Now these are cleaned up, you can see they get this kind of cool texture on it. Especially with cold roll material that doesn't have any hot rolled stuff on it. I really think it makes it look pretty cool. But now the next step is going to need to take your 1/4 inch rod here. And what we're going to do is we're going to end up sliding these pieces on in order from like largest to smallest or smallest to largest. And that'll kind of be one of the last final steps before we start assembling. Now, we do have to put kind of like a head on this, otherwise, of course, these things will just slide right off. And what I like to do is just weld basically just a little top to it. It almost kind of looks like the kind of center bud of a flower, and then we'll slide the stuff on from the back, and that'll keep it from sliding off. So let's weld a little bit on the top here, and then we'll move to the next step. Alright, that's it. That's all you need. Basically just almost looks like a push rod off of the inside of an engine. And then that'll keep the pieces from sliding in. Once we slide them down, that'll keep them from falling off. So, alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put these in order, going from smallest to largest, and then eventually ending with this little piece here on the bottom, and then we'll weld all that in place, and then we can start bending up all the petals. Alright, now we're going to take each of these pieces and we're going to go from smallest to largest. So all you're going to do is just take each piece, you can just keep sliding them down just like so. You got all of them in. Last thing with that big one. Slide it on, and then of course this little piece here, it should be your bud down there towards the bottom. And then you'll see it's like this. Doesn't matter the alignment of them or anything right now. This is just all we need. Now that we have all this on here, now we're going to flip it over, and you will see, I'll use my, what we're going to do is we're just going to weld around the bottom here, and then that'll keep all these pieces in place. And then once you start folding them, it won't matter where they're located at, if they spin or not, because they'll end up being held in place. So let's go ahead and weld this little spot here, and then we'll start bending the petals. Okay, as you can see, that bottom is welded up, and that's basically keeping everything in place. It ain't going to slide around now. So, alright, so you're going to flip it over, and then you notice all these petals are just kind of in whatever order. Now, I actually like to spin them so that each petal is kind of alternating. So, if you see here, you got 2 petals here, and then we'll put one covering it, then 2 petals, and we'll slide these over. Sometimes you might need a little tool or something, kind of help spin those, depending on how tight you made it. And then we'll have it like that. Alright, now this is next step is now we're going to start basically bending them all, and to actually start making them look like a real flower. And a pair of pliers or a screwdriver or something is what you're going to need right now. Alright, so I got my needle nose, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking these petals and I'm going to start bending them up. And don't bend them all the way just yet, just a little bit. We're just trying to get up underneath there. And if you notice, I'm using a pair of needle nose. Now, at this point, I usually switch over to, come on, pliers, a larger one. And then this way, this will kind of help me bend the petal a little more. So if you can see how now we got kind of a curve instead of just the straight, we got a little bit of a curve. So we're going to do that with each of these center ones. And then we go in, and then you can really kind of just start manhandling it. You can bend them however you think they might need to be. And it's okay if you get kind of messy with these, because it's a flower, and obviously flowers aren't perfect. So it's okay. Now this is where the 20 gauge material kind of comes in a lot. Excuse me, the 24 or thinner gauge material comes in handier. This is actually 20 gauge, and it still works, but it's just a little harder to work with. That's why I prefer the thinner stuff. Or if you want to get real fancy with it, if you do copper, copper is really nice, real thin copper like O2 or O25 or something like that. Tends to look really nice. But alright, so there's kind of the centerpiece. And then all we're going to do after that is we're just going to keep folding all these other ones to eventually kind of look similar to that, however you think it might be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of these, and then we'll take a look at it towards the end. Alright, you can see the next layer now. So all I did, just like the first layer, I just folded each one up, kind of bent the petals however I thought they might look and how an actual rose might look, and then just one there. So you'll keep doing that to every single layer all the way till you get to the last one. And then that's pretty much the process the whole time. Just, it, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I like to make it a little less perfect so it kind of looks more like the actual thing. So I'm going to finish up the rest of these, and then I'll show you the final result, and then we'll go on to the last few steps to finish this up. Okay. Get this tripod and tools out of the way. there you have it. So I bent everything up. Like I said, make it look like petals, and you'll notice here down towards the bottom, I fold these pieces down, kind of make it look like the actual thing. And it's not perfect, but again, this is super simple. You can knock this out pretty fast. Like I said, probably within 30 minutes if you got some pretty quick skills. Now, there are a few other things that I like to do, or you can just kind of leave it how it is, but I'm going to take it over to the my little bender, and I actually like to put a little bit of a bend in the stem so it's not straight, so it might actually look a little more natural. So I'll go over and show you how to do that. And then there's one last thing, or maybe one or two things I like to do to kind of really make these things pop. So let's bend the stem next, and then I'll show you the last couple things. Alright, however you need to bend the stem, you do what you need to do. I actually got this nice little tool here called the machete. And what I like to do is I put it in here just inside. And I just kind of give the stem just a little bit of turns, bends a little bit. You can heat yours up, you could put it in a vise and beat it with a hammer. However you need to do it, works for you. I just have this tool, it makes things a lot easier now. If you look at it, if I rotate it, now it's not a perfect stem. It's actually got a little bit of a twist to it. So, again, it looks a bit more natural. And if you want to add leaves to it, weld it on, you can do that also. For this little example, I'm just going to leave them off. So, okay, I got two more things I like to do with these, and then we'll call it a day. Alright, the last thing I like to do, because this looks really cool how it is, but I like to take a propane torch. Come on. There we go. And then I actually like to burn the edges, and it ends up giving it a little color. So let's go ahead and do that. When you get them nice and hot. There we go. See the edges? I'll do a close up here in a second. We're not trying to do the whole thing. Just trying to get the edges burnt. There we go. If you want to color the whole thing, you can. Again, it's yours, however you want to do it. I like to just do the tips. Alright, let's get a close-up. So that really kind of starts to give it a little bit of character. You can see the blues and dark colors and stuff. I think it's cool to leave it like that, but there's one last thing I like to do is I like to take this duplicolor metal cast paint, the red anodized, and we're not going to put a super hard coat on it, just a little bit. This is kind of like a candy coat. And what we'll do is just a little bit, and there you have it. So now you can still see all that cool texture that we put on when we clean the parts, and then if you use that metal cast, it gives it kind of this nice little red tint now. And of course you can do any color you want, but the key is it's a clear coat. But alright, there you have it. So hopefully you kind of learned how to do that. Again, this is real simple, and you can probably knock it out pretty fast. If you don't have the material, or you just don't have the time, if you head to metalmakershop.com under the flower section, I will have kits for these. You can order them up, and there will be all the metal parts cut out, along with your 1/4-inch shaft, and then the rest is just up to you to weld together and assemble the rest of it. So, but hope this might give you some ideas with Valentine's Day coming up. Put something cool together. So thanks again for watching, guys. You know the usual, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If not, hey, whatever, no big deal. So thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.